The joke that changed everything. The grand throne room of the alien empire shimmered with cold light. Tall pillars of crystal reached high into the sky roof, glowing with faint blue energy. Hundreds of alien nobles stood in silence, their strange eyes fixed on the single human who dared to enter. The air felt heavy, almost too thick to breathe, and every step the human took echoed across the chamber like thunder. He was not a soldier in gleaming armor, nor a famous diplomat with silver words. He was simply a man who had been sent to deliver a message, a man who never thought he would stand before the most feared ruler in the galaxy. The alien queen sat on a throne of black stone, her crown like burning stars above her head. Her skin glowed faintly, her eyes like twin suns, sharp and unreadable. She was beautiful in a way that was both terrifying and strange. One glance from her made warriors kneel and traitors crumble. But when she looked at the human, she only raised one delicate brow. The silence was unbearable. The nobles whispered, their voices sharp and cold. They mocked humanity, calling them weak creatures from a forgotten world. They spoke of Earth as a death world, but not with respect. Rather as a joke, a place where savages fought animals. The human felt the heat rise in his chest, but he forced himself to remain calm. If he showed anger, they would laugh harder. If he showed fear, they would tear him apart. He swallowed hard, standing tall though his legs wanted to tremble. The queen finally spoke, her voice like music wrapped in iron. "Human," she said, her tone sharp. "Why do you stand here before me? What value do you carry? Why should I not dismiss you at once?" The human's throat went dry. He had practiced formal words, speeches about alliance and trade, but under the crushing eyes of hundreds of alien lords, his mind betrayed him. Instead of his planned speech, a nervous smile crept across his face, and in that moment, foolish courage, or madness, took hold. He looked straight at the alien queen, her golden gaze piercing through him, and he said with a shaky laugh, "Well, I was going to talk about diplomacy, but looking at you, I think you'd make a cute wife." The throne room froze. Every alien noble gasped, their voices like the hiss of blades. Guards snapped their weapons forward, their crystal spears humming with deadly energy. One wrong word now, and his life would end where he stood. The human knew it too, yet he could not take his words back. They had already been spoken, already drifting like fire into the silence. The queen did not blink. For a long moment she only stared, her face carved from stone. The nobles screamed insults, calling the human a fool, a savage, a blasphemer. But then something strange happened. The queen lifted one hand, and the entire hall fell silent. She rose slowly from her throne, every movement graceful yet filled with power. Her eyes locked onto the human as if she were searching his soul. The guards hesitated, waiting for her command to strike him down. The nobles leaned forward, eager to see him punished, but instead of fury, instead of cold dismissal, the queen tilted her head ever so slightly, and then, with a voice that sent shivers through the chamber, she said, "I accept." The human's smile froze, his heart nearly stopped. He thought he misheard, but the words echoed again in the hall, her voice ringing clear. "I accept your proposal." The chamber erupted in chaos. Nobles shouted in disbelief, some roaring that it was impossible, others begging the queen to reconsider. The guards looked confused, unsure whether to kill him or protect him, and the human, still stunned, could only whisper to himself, "Wait, what? That was a joke." But the queen stepped closer, her golden gown shimmering like liquid sunlight. She stopped only a breath away from him, her presence overwhelming. She leaned down, her lips near his ear, and whispered so only he could hear. "In my world, human, words are binding. You have spoken before witnesses you offered, and I, the sovereign of the stars, have accepted. You are mine now." The human's knees almost buckled. He looked into her eyes and saw no trace of jest. This was no misunderstanding. The queen had declared before her entire empire that she had taken him as her consort, her chosen, and nothing in the galaxy could undo it. The nobles screamed louder, shouting about betrayal, about shame, about tradition. Some called for war, others for exile. But the queen's voice silenced them all again. She declared in cold, unshakable words, "Let it be written, let it be sealed. From this day, this human stands as my chosen, my husband." The human's world spun. What had been a nervous joke was now a chain that bound him to the most powerful being in the galaxy. He had not just spoken words, he had rewritten destiny, and as he looked at the queen, who now stared at him with unreadable eyes, he realized the truth. The joke that was meant to break the silence had broken the galaxy instead, a queen's hidden motive. The human could not sleep that night. He was taken from the throne room under heavy guard, not as a prisoner, but as someone too important to leave unprotected. The queen's command had shocked everyone, and now he was placed in a golden chamber deep inside the palace, guarded by soldiers with eyes like burning coals. He lay on a bed softer than clouds, yet his heart pounded as if it carried the weight of 1,000 storms. It was supposed to be a joke. One careless sentence, one nervous attempt to ease the tension, and now his entire life had changed. The alien queen, ruler of millions of stars, had accepted him as her husband. But why? What did she gain from a human with no crown, no power, no army? As dawn's light crept across the crystalline walls, the queen came herself. She entered. Without announcement, her presence filling the chamber like a rising sun, her golden gown shimmered and her crown glowed faintly. The guards bowed low, leaving the chamber in silence as she dismissed them with a single wave. The human stood quickly, his heart racing. "Your Majesty," he said nervously. "About yesterday, I wasn't serious." The queen's lips curved into the faintest smile, sharp as a blade. "I know, human," she replied, her voice calm. "But the galaxy does not know, and now it cannot be undone." She circled him slowly, like a predator studying her prey. "Do you know our law?" she asked, her voice echoing softly. "In my empire, words spoken in the presence of the court are binding. If a proposal is made to the crown and the crown accepts, it is sealed forever. Not even I may take it back." The human swallowed hard. "So you're telling me I'm really your husband now?" The queen stopped in front of him, her eyes like twin suns. "You are," she said, "by law, by tradition, and by my choice." Her words hung heavy in the air. The human tried to protest. "But why? You could have laughed. You could have ordered me executed. You could have—" The queen raised a hand, silencing him. "There are reasons you do not yet understand, reasons older than your people's first flight into the stars." She led him to the window, where the vast capital city stretched across the horizon. Ships floated like silver fish in the sky. Towers glowed with alien fire, and millions bowed to her name. "This empire is strong, but it is fragile within," she said quietly. "My enemies gather in shadows, waiting for a single sign of weakness. They plot to take my throne, to tear my crown from my head. They have failed for years, but now they think the time is ripe." She turned to face him again. "Your words, human, gave me a shield they cannot break. By binding myself to you, I have get the game. No rival can now challenge me without also challenging the law itself. You may think it was a joke, but in truth it was the key I needed." The human's head spun. "So, I'm just a political shield?" he asked bitterly. Her golden eyes softened, just slightly. "Perhaps at first," she admitted. "But not only that, you stood before hundreds of lords who despise you, and yet you did not tremble. You dared to look me in the eye. That alone makes you different from most of my kind." The human fell silent, unsure if her words were praise or a trap. He wanted to believe she saw something in him, but doubt gnawed at his chest. Was he truly chosen, or just useful? The queen stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. "Do not think lightly of what you are now," she said firmly. "The galaxy watches, my enemies whisper, my allies tremble. From this moment, your every breath will shape the stars." Her hand brushed his shoulder, light as starlight, yet heavy as destiny. "You may not yet see the path, human, but you and I are bound now, and together we will either stand as rulers or fall as legends." She turned and walked toward the door, her gown trailing like molten gold. Before leaving, she looked back, her voice soft but sharp. "Do not think to run. If you flee, the law will hunt you, the nobles will tear you apart, and the galaxy itself will brand you a coward. But if you stay—" She paused, her eyes glimmering like fire. "You may become something greater than you ever dreamed." The door closed behind her, leaving the human alone once more. He sat on the edge of the golden bed, his hands trembling, his heart drowning in confusion. Was she telling the truth? Was he a shield, a pawn, or something more? One thing was certain, the Queen had motives hidden deep beneath her calm words, and whatever they were, he was now trapped in her game. The joke that had been meant to lighten the silence was no longer a joke. It was a chain, a crown, and a storm waiting to break across the stars, the weight of a galaxy's eyes, the news was spread faster than light. By dawn, every corner of the empire whispered the same impossible story. The alien queen, the Star Empress herself, had taken a human as her husband. At first many laughed, thinking it was a rumor born from drunken tongues. But when the official declaration was broadcast across the empire, the laughter turned to silence, then outrage, then fear. On distant worlds, alien nobles shattered their crystal goblets in rage. In the war halls of rival empires, generals slammed their fists on the table demanding answers. The Galactic Council, a gathering of the most powerful races in the known universe, sent urgent messages demanding clarity, and through it all, one image replayed on every channel. The Queen, radiant in her crown, standing tall beside the bewildered human, her voice echoing in their ears, declaring him chosen, declaring him bound to her by law and tradition. The human sat in his chamber, his hands covering his face. He could almost feel the weight of billions of eyes pressing down on him. He had never wanted power, never dreamed of crowns or empires, and yet now he was at the center of a storm that stretched across galaxies. When he stepped into the palace halls, alien servants bowed low, their expressions unreadable. Some looked at him with curiosity, some with disgust, and some with thinly hidden fear. He could hear the whispers as he passed. The Queen has lost her mind. She shames the crown. Perhaps the prophecy is true. Assassins struck within days. The first came disguised as a servant, slipping a blade of shadow toward his heart, but the Queen's elite guards cut him down before he could strike. The second came as poison in his wine, but the Queen herself warned him not to drink, her golden eyes sharp. The third came as a swarm of drones, their metal bodies humming with death. He barely survived as the palace shields blazed with light. Each time the Queen grew colder, fiercer. She sat beside him during council meetings, her voice calm but edged with fire. "The galaxy tests us," she told him one night. "They want to see if you will break, but if you endure, if you stand by me, they will learn to fear us both." The human stared at her, unsure what frightened him more, her enemies or her calm certainty. Was she protecting him out of duty, or was there something more in her gaze? There were moments when her eyes softened, when her hand lingered too long near his. Moments when he caught her watching him, not as a tool, but as something far more dangerous, something almost human. Still, doubts gnawed at his heart. He was only one man, one voice, trapped in a web of politics and war. The nobles loathed him, the council condemned him, assassins hunted him, and yet the Queen acted as though every piece was falling into place exactly as she wished. What did she see that he did not? What truth did she hide behind her mask of calm? The Galactic Council demanded a hearing. They summoned the Queen and her human consort to stand before them. The palace grew tense, guards doubling their patrols, rumors spreading like fire. The human walked beside the Queen through endless halls, his stomach a knot of fear. "This is madness," he whispered. "Why drag me into this? Why make me your shield?" The Queen's lips curved faintly, her voice like iron silk. "Because, human, the galaxy needs to see you. They need to know I did not choose a weakling. They must feel your presence, your defiance, your fire." When the day came, the council chamber roared with voices. Leaders from across the stars stood in towering forms, their bodies glowing, shifting, shimmering with alien grandeur. They mocked, they sneered, they accused. "The Queen has dishonored her crown," one shouted. "She dares bind herself to a savage," cried another. "This is proof her empire has fallen," whispered a third. The human stood frozen as 1,000 eyes turned toward him. His throat tightened, his knees wanted to buckle. But then he felt the Queen's gaze on him, sharp, steady, burning with unspoken command, and something inside him snapped. He straightened his back, lifted his chin, and spoke. Maybe I am human. Maybe I am from a small world you mock. But remember this, my people survived a world you call a death world. We endured storms that would crush your cities, beasts that would tear your armies apart. We are small, but we are not weak. And if you dare to strike against us, you will learn that humans do not bow. We rise. The chamber went silent. The counselors shifted uneasily, whispers rippling like waves. The queen's golden eyes glimmered, her lips curving in the faintest smile. At that moment, he realized her plan. She wanted him to speak, to stand, to show them all that her choice was not madness, but destiny. Yet deep in his heart, doubt still lingered. Had she chosen him because she saw strength in humanity, or because she had always intended to use him as the weapon she needed? As they left the council chamber, the queen leaned close, her whisper soft against his ear. You see, human, the galaxy already begins to tremble. Do not fear their eyes. Fear only the day they stop watching, for that will mean we have already lost. Between trust and betrayal, the palace was quieter after the council session. But the silence was not peace. It was the silence of blades hidden in shadows, the silence of enemies who waited for the perfect moment. The human could feel it. Every corridor seemed colder, every gaze heavier. Servants bowed but did not meet his eyes. Guards saluted but whispered when he passed. The queen walked beside him as if nothing troubled her, her golden gown flowing like sunlight, but even her smile could not hide the storm brewing around them. That night, she invited him into her private chamber, a place no outsider had entered before. The walls were carved with glowing symbols, the floor lined with silver fire. At the center stood a great table covered with star maps, lines of light traced across hundreds of systems, arrows marking fleets and borders. The human stared in shock, realizing what he was seeing. The queen was preparing for war. She watched him closely, her golden eyes unreadable. You see now why I needed you, she said, her voice calm. My enemies grow bolder each day. They think I am weak. They think my throne can be taken. But with you beside me, with the law binding us, I have bought time. Time to prepare. Time to strike first, before they crush us. The human's chest tightened. So, all of this, he said slowly, marriage, the council, even my survival, it's all strategy, isn't it? Her lips curved faintly, almost like regret. At first, yes, she admitted. But not only. Do you truly think I would bind myself to someone unworthy? Do you think I would risk my empire for nothing? He turned away, anger boiling in his veins. You used me, he whispered. You made me your shield, your weapon. She stepped closer, her presence overwhelming, her voice sharp. And what if I did, human? Would you rather I had let you die in that throne room? Would you rather your world remain a forgotten stone in the dark while others rise? You are more than you believe, but you cannot see it yet. Her hand brushed his arm, and for a moment he felt warmth in her touch, almost human, almost real. But when he looked into her eyes, he could not tell if it was truth or another mask. That night, when she finally left him alone, he searched the chamber again. He found a hidden data crystal tucked beneath the star maps. His heart pounded as he activated it in secret. What he saw turned his blood cold. Files detailing fleets gathering at the edges of the empire, secret orders to mobilize warships, lists of targets, including human colonies. His breath caught, his chest burning with fear and betrayal. Was she planning to protect him, or was humanity itself just another piece in her game? He confronted her the next day, his voice shaking with fury. I saw the files, I know about the fleets, I know about the targets. The queen did not deny it, her golden eyes steady. You should not have touched what was not yours, she said softly. But since you have, then know this, war is coming, with or without me, with or without you. If I do not strike, they will strike first. And when they do, humanity will burn alongside my empire. The human's fists clenched. So I'm not your husband. I'm your excuse, your tool to hold power until the war begins. For the first time, her face cracked, a flicker of pain crossing her perfect features. No, she whispered. You are more than that. But if I told you everything now, you would not believe me. Trust is not given in a day, human. It is forged in fire. And fire is coming. He stared at her, torn between anger and doubt. She had saved his life, defended him in the council, and yet her secrets burned like knives in his chest. Could he trust her, or was he nothing more than a pawn in her endless game? That night, as the stars burned cold above the palace, he lay awake. He remembered her whisper, her hand on his shoulder, her voice when she declared him hers. Was it truth, or only theater? He could not decide. But one thought echoed in his mind, louder than all the others. If betrayal came, it would not come from his enemies. It would come from her. And the galaxy would shatter when that moment arrived. The humans stand. The council chamber was filled again, brighter, louder, heavier than before. This time the nobles had gathered not only to whisper, but to act. They demanded the queen explain her decision. They demanded she undo what she had done. The air burned with tension, and every word spoken echoed like thunder. The human stood beside the queen, his heart pounding, his throat dry. He could feel every gaze stabbing into him, cold, sharp, filled with hate. They did not see him as a husband. They saw him as an insult, a mistake, a weakness. The queen sat still, her face calm as stone, her golden crown blazing like fire, but she did not speak, not yet. Instead, she turned her head ever so slightly, her eyes locking onto the human. She wanted him to speak. She wanted him to stand, a noble rose, his voice dripping with venom. This human is unworthy. He is nothing but a creature from a savage world. You shame us all by binding him to the throne. Another shouted, "Remove him, or we will remove you. The empire cannot follow a queen who makes mockery of law." The hall filled with roars of agreement, their voices like a storm. The human's legs trembled. Every instinct told him to stay silent, but something inside him sparked, an anger, a fire that had been building since the day he spoke that foolish joke. He stepped forward, his voice breaking the storm. "You call me unworthy," he said, his voice shaking at first. "But I am still standing here, am I not?" The hall fell quiet, just for a moment. He continued, louder now, stronger. "You call my people savages, but we are survivors. We lived on a world you would call impossible. We fought storms that would tear your cities apart. We faced creatures that would swallow your armies whole. We were born on a death world, and we endured. And if you think that makes us weak, then you know nothing of strength." The nobles hissed, some shouting back, but his words cut through their rage. He turned his eyes on them, fire burning in his chest. "You think I am here as a joke, but you are wrong. I did not come here to beg. I did not come here to bow. I came here because your queen chose me, and whether you accept it or not, I will not run. I will not break. If the galaxy wants to see what a human is, then look at me. I will stand, and I will not fall." The chamber fell silent. Even those who hated him the most did not speak. The queen rose slowly, her golden eyes gleaming with pride she did not bother to hide. Her voice carried across the chamber, sharp as lightning. "You have heard him. You call him unworthy, but you tremble at his words. You call him savage, but he speaks with more courage than your armies. I chose him, not for blood, not for power, but because he stands when others kneel." The nobles shifted uneasily, some glaring, some silent, some even thoughtful. The human's words had cracked something in their armor of arrogance, but others only grew angrier. One noble shouted, "This is no proof. Words mean nothing. A human cannot hold the empire together." The queen's gaze sharpened. "Then test him," she said coldly. "Challenge him if you dare. But remember, by law, he is mine. If you strike at him, you strike at me." The hall shook with whispers, threats, and fear, but none moved forward. None dared to strike him under her gaze. For the first time, the human realized the truth. He was no longer just a shield, no longer just a pawn. He was a piece that could not be ignored, a voice that could shake even the proudest lords. That night, when the chamber emptied, the queen led him through the dark halls, her expression unreadable, her steps quiet. "You spoke well," she said softly. "You stood when they expected you to fall." The human shook his head, his chest still burning. "I only spoke the truth," he whispered. I don't know if it was enough. Her golden eyes softened for just a breath. It was more than enough, she said. For the first time they fear you. He stopped, staring at her. Do you fear me too? He asked quietly. The queen tilted her head, her smile faint but dangerous. Perhaps. So, he whispered. But fear is not always weakness, human. Sometimes it is the root of respect, and sometimes of something greater. For the first time he saw her differently, not just as a queen, not just as a ruler wrapped in iron law, but as a woman carrying the weight of a galaxy, a woman who had chosen him for reasons he still did not understand. Trust was fragile, doubt still heavy, but the spark of something new flickered between them. Not peace, not love, not yet, but the beginning of something that could either save them or destroy everything. And the galaxy watched, waiting for which it would be. Blood and fire in the palace. The palace no longer felt safe. Whispers grew louder, shadows stretched longer, and the queen's own halls carried the scent of betrayal. The human could feel it in every step. The walls were too quiet, the guards too tense, the servants too nervous. Something was coming. Something sharp and deadly. That night, the sky above the capital city bled with red light. The palace alarms shrieked, echoing like thunder across the towers of crystal. Explosions rocked the outer walls. Fire blossomed in the distance, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. The queen's private guards rushed through the corridors, their weapons blazing with blue fire. The human barely had time to rise from his bed before the doors burst open. "Stay behind me," a guard shouted, but his words were cut short as a blade of pure energy sliced through him. Assassins poured into the chamber, their armor black as night, their faces hidden by steel masks. The human stumbled back, his heart pounding. One lunged at him, blade raised high. He grabbed the only thing near him, a ceremonial staff from the wall, and swung it with desperate strength. The blow cracked the assassin's helmet, sending him sprawling. The queen entered like a storm, her golden gown torn, her crown cast aside, her eyes blazed brighter than the fire outside, her voice sharp as lightning. "Kill them all," she commanded, her guards shed with the assassins, steel against fire, blood against shadow. The palace halls became a battlefield, screams and sparks filling the air. The human fought clumsily, striking with wild strength. Every strike was survival, every breath a prayer. One assassin nearly pinned him, blade inches from his throat, but the queen's hand flashed, a wave of golden fire blasting the attacker into ash. He stared at her in shock, realizing for the first time the true depth of her power. She was not just a ruler, she was a weapon, a living storm wrapped in flesh. The battle raged deeper into the night. Columns fell, flames licked the walls, shadows ran like rivers of death. The human and queen fought side by side, their movements desperate but in rhythm. When he stumbled, she pulled him back. When she faltered, he struck to cover her. Together they carved a path through the chaos, their bond forged in fire and blood. Finally they reached the throne room, but even here death waited. The leader of the assassins stood tall, his armor blacker than void, his blade burning red. He bowed mockingly to the queen, his voice filled with venom. "Your reign ends tonight, and your human dies with you." The queen raised her hands, golden fire burning around her. But before she could strike, the assassin soldiers unleashed a storm of energy bolts. The human dove forward, dragging her down behind the throne as the blasts shattered the crystal pillars. Dust and smoke filled the chamber. The throne cracked and fell. Through the chaos, the human's voice rose, raw and desperate. "Enough," he shouted. "You want me, then take me, but you will not touch her." The assassins laughed, their weapons raised. But then something happened, something no one expected. The queen rose behind him, her golden light blazing brighter than the sun. Her voice thundered through the throne room. "He is mine, by law, by blood, by fire, and no hand will strike him while I still breathe." Power surged from her, a wave of pure energy that tore through the assassins, shattering armor, breaking blades, turning screams into silence. The human shielded his eyes, the brilliance almost too much to bear. When the light faded, the throne room was littered with broken steel and silence. The leader of the assassins lay crumpled at her feet, his mask cracked, his body broken. The queen's chest heaved, her face pale, but her eyes still blazed with fire. The human rushed to her side, gripping her arm. "You saved me," he whispered, his voice shaking, her lips curved faintly, though blood ran at the corner of her mouth. "No," she whispered back. "We saved each other." For a moment, the weight of the galaxy fell away. They were no longer queen and consort, no longer ruler and shield. They were two souls who had stood together against the storm, and in that moment, trust began to take root where doubt once lived. But as the guards rushed into the ruined throne room, their faces grim, the truth returned. This was not the end. The attack was only the beginning. If enemies could strike the palace itself, then nowhere was safe. And as the queen leaned against him, whispering words meant only for him, he felt a chill. "Now you see, human," she said softly. "They will never stop. If we fall apart, we die. If we stand together, we may yet conquer the stars." The palace burned around them, the night filled with fire and screams. But within that fire, something new was born. Not only an alliance, but a bond no blade could sever, a bond the galaxy itself would come to fear, a marriage that shook the stars. The palace still smoldered when the new dawn rose. Broken columns lay scattered like fallen giants, walls blackened by fire, the air heavy with ash and smoke. But in the great hall the queen stood tall, her golden gown torn, her crown cracked, her body weary but unbroken. Beside her stood the human, his clothes scorched, his hands shaking, yet his eyes steady. They were no longer just survivors of an attack. They were something far greater. The nobles gathered in silence, their voices gone, their pride crushed by the night's events. They had seen the assassins fall. They had seen the queen unleash her true power, and they had seen the human refuse to flee. Whispers filled the chamber, not of weakness now, but of fear and awe. Some said the queen had become too dangerous. Others whispered that the human was not ordinary at all. But all of them knew one truth. They could no longer dismiss him, nor deny her choice. The queen raised her voice, sharp and unshakable. "My enemies struck at the heart of this empire. They failed. They believed my bond to this human was weakness. They were wrong. Together we stood, and together we endured. From this day forward, let it be known, he is not only my husband, but my partner, my equal, my shield and my sword." Her words echoed across the hall, carried by 100 recorders, spreading to every world under her crown. The galaxy would hear it. The galaxy would remember it. The human felt his chest tighten, his heart racing. He had never asked for this, never dreamed of crowns or thrones. But now the stars themselves had been forced to witness his vow. He stepped forward, his voice raw but steady. "I am human," he declared. "I come from a world you call savage, a place you mock. But from that world comes strength, from that world comes fire. I did not choose this path, but now I will not turn away. If you strike at her, you strike at me. If you challenge her, you challenge us both. We will not bow, we will not break, we will not fall." The nobles shifted, some lowering their heads, some clenching their fists in rage. But none could deny the fire in his words. None could erase the truth of what I had seen a queen and a human, standing side by side, stronger together than apart. Later, when the chamber emptied and silence returned, the queen sat on her broken throne, her eyes softer now, her crown lying in her lap. The human stood nearby, still unsure if this was victory or another trap. "You declared me your equal," he said quietly. "Did you mean it, or was it only for show?" She looked at him, her golden eyes no longer sharp but weary, tired, almost human. "I meant it," she whispered. "I meant every word. I bound myself to you for law, for power, for survival. But last night, when we fought together, when we bled together, I saw something more. I saw that you are not a shield, not a tool, not a pawn. You are what I have always needed. Someone who stands, even when the stars themselves fall." The human's breath caught, his chest heavy with unspoken words. He wanted to ask her if it was love, but the word felt too small, too fragile for what burned between them. Instead, he simply nodded. "Then we stand," he said, his voice firm. "Together," she replied, her lips curving in the faintest smile, From the palace roof, they looked out over the capital. Smoke still rose, flames still burned, but the city knelt in silence, watching their queen and her chosen. For the first time, the human did not feel like an outsider. He felt like part of something vast, terrifying, and unstoppable. And though fear still lingered, it was matched by something else: hope. The galaxy trembled as the news spread. A queen and a human, bound by law, strengthened by fire, crowned by battle. Enemies gathered in shadows. Allies watched with unease, and whispers of prophecy returned. Some said this union would bring war. Others claimed it would bring peace. But none could deny the truth. The joke that had begun in fear had become legend. The queen turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly. From a jest, destiny was born. From weakness, strength rose. From one careless word, two. The stars themselves have changed. Do you regret it, human? He looked at her, his heart steady now. No, he whispered, not anymore. And as the dawn's light crowned them both, the galaxy learned a new truth, that sometimes the smallest words carry the greatest power, that sometimes a single moment reshapes the future, and that sometimes even a joke can shake the stars.